It's like I realized not too long ago that what's his name? Vin Diesel. Like I don't think I've ever seen a Vin Diesel movie.
What? How?
What?
You've never seen a Fast and the Furious movie?
I have not.
Like not one?
Not a single one.
That's wild.
Don't Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson both have in their contracts that they can't lose a fight?
Yeah.
I think that would be a great way to end the series, is to have them fight each other, and then neither of them can lose contractually.
They're not on good terms. Between
they play kind of the similar roles, so I can see why.
They're also identical physically. Can you imagine being sort of face blind and trying to watch those movies? Like you'd be like, I'm so confused all the time about who these two people are. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the JRPG Pursuit, your JRPG podcast for all things JRPGs. I'm Branden.
I'm Abdallah.
And I'm Emily.
And we are coming at you. We're coming in hot again. Seems like we've been pretty fiery lately, but we are coming in hot with another spicy episode. Spicy in the sense of like, we're just going to kind of roast some of our faves, okay? If you can't roast your faves, you have to be able to roast your faves, everybody, right? You have to have a sense of humor about the things you love. Before we dive in, though, I want to, of course, as always, thank our members for supporting us through YouTube and through Spotify. We really, really appreciate you all. You are all the best. If you would be interested in supporting us financially, join the membership program. We just really love having you. You guys are all great. Anyway, with all of that ado aside, shall we talk about our least favorite parts of our favorite games? It's probably a better way of saying that.
Yeah.
10 things I hate about you. The Xeno Gears edition or something like that, right? Like
something like that.
Something like that. So I'm happy to get the ball rolling,
Please.
I guess,
Sure.
if you guys are
Yeah,
fine
go
with
ahead.
it.
Please go ahead.
You know, there's certain categories of things that I personally hate, and maybe some people will agree with me. One category, of course, is the silent protagonist. So if I were to take a game like Chrono Trigger, which is one of my all-time favorites, it's just a beautiful masterpiece of a game. If I were to pick something I hate about that game or something that irritates me, it would be the fact that Chrono is a silent protagonist. He is, you know, at that point in game development history, we had moved beyond the basic story of older games, like in the old Dragon Quest games, where it was just very straightforward, very simple. And we had, you know, fully moved into the realm of rich, complex narratives. You know, scaled back a bit for 16-bit compared to today, but still like leaps and bounds beyond where we had been. And the silent protagonist in that sort of game makes no sense. There are things that Chrono does as a protagonist, which I will not share here, but there are things that he does that are fully outside the realm of the player being able to choose something. And that's the key for me with silent protags is like, if you're making choices as the character, then it doesn't bother me as much. But when you don't actually have agency over the character's actions and they don't talk, they don't participate in the story, it's like, what is this? Why is this person here? What is the point?
Yeah. But for JRPGs, we usually don't have full-on agency. We have limited agency. But I agree, probably some limited agency would have lent itself a little bit better there. I'm wondering, though, if the rumors are true, we'll have a full-on remake of Chrono Trigger. If they actually made him not silent, how do you think you'd react?
I would be happy to see a new take on this beloved classic.
Let's say
I'm
he's
not one
annoying
of those,
like Naruto.
Why? Why would you do that? Don't do that. Emily, come on.
Now that's out there in the universe, Emily.
Believe it. Just the worst. No,
it's like, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, this thing is untouchable and sacred and you can't remake it or make a sequel to it. It's like, no, it's fine. Like, I can play Chrono Trigger anytime I want. It's still there. Like, it's fine.
It's not our preferences, though. Like, we would, envision, Chrono to be a little bit more interesting than, say, some other
now
options.
I can't stop hearing Naruto in my head, and it's making me crazy.
I would be happy if he was an interesting character. They'd have to make him an interesting character first, right? He's not. He doesn't have a personality.
He doesn't have.
So if they could make him an interesting character and get him, fitting in well with the rest of the cast, I don't think it would bother me.
And I think
I'd be into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think if you're doing a remake, this is your chance to do things with this IP that no one else has like, that hasn't been done yet. Like Branden
yet.
said, we have the original. Like, I'm not looking for a rehash of the same, the same thing. I could just play the original if I wanted to play like the same exact game over again. So like it for them to take liberties in terms of like giving him more of an actual like personality with with actual like lines and dialogue and his like character development across all the different characters in that game, that would be key to me. Like I'm all for that. I mean, there's things that like, I think it would just make for a better game design in this day and age.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact remains that Yuji Horii would probably be in charge again.
Yeah.
And he is a stickler. if no other word is
things
can
are
be used
sacred,
to describe
right?
him, he's definitely a stickler for his
true.
sacred cows. He has like recently, and I think we may have even talked about it on this podcast, where he was doing an interview and he was like, yeah, it's kind of occurring to me that like it's a little bit strange in these like graphically rich games when you have a character, a protagonist that doesn't talk. It seems odd because everybody's talking around him. It's like, yeah, Yuji, good point.
Seems kind of dumb, right?
I can't believe nobody thought of that before now. It's brilliant, Yuji. Good job.
In a 3D space, it's a lot weirder.
It is so much weirder. It is, especially with voiced characters. If everybody was silent, or if there was no spoken dialogue, right? Like then it's like forgivable. Not forgivable. I don't want to say that. I don't want to give them an out, but it's like less noticeable, less annoying. But
because I feel like everyone talking at this character, and then they don't respond. But then you have those characters respond like
as if you had.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is the weirdest thing when you have actual voice dialogue, in the scene. Right. So like it's just it's so weird.
The way Metaphor did the protagonist is the perfect like compromise in my mind of having a character with agency versus having a character where you are portraying, like you choose what the character says and then the character says it, like responds, participates. I think that's great. Fallout 4 did something similar actually, and I appreciated that about Fallout 4 on the Western RPG side of things.
Yeah.
But anyway, from all that, I took away that you guys are pro Naruto Chrono Trigger.
Yes, you heard it here, folks.
First, believe it. Believe it.
Naruto is Chrono. All right, 2025.
2025.
Gonna make shirts.
It hurts me.
Get the same voice actor, whoever that was.
Because
please.
I hate that voice so much.
So bad.
I could not watch the English dubbing of that show. It just hurt me.
Everyone was on Toonami, and I was just cringy the whole time.
I watched it subbed.
It must have been after my time because I don't remember it ever being on Toonami.
It was on there for a while.
I think the only way I was able to watch it back then.
Yeah.
It was definitely there.
No, I believe you. I must have been in college or something because I wasn't watching.
No, this is when I was like 13. I don't think you're in college.
I was in college.
Quite yet.
Hate to break it to you, Emily.
12.
I don't know if you know how old I am.
10.
Branden's an old man.
10.
Old man Branden.
So I would have been like 16. I was watching Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z on Toonami at that point.
I was watching Sailor Moon. I think Naruto was around the same time.
No.
If it was, I never saw it. I don't remember seeing ads for it.
It might have been at the same time at some point, like in terms of like they're just rerunning things. But like the first time Sailor Moon was shown on Toonami and those things, that was like that was when we were pretty young, I think.
When it started, I was probably like 14 or 15 when Sailor Moon started. Anyway, let us know in the comments if you know the original air date of Naruto on Toonami so that we can get our timelines lined up.
I'm sure we can Google it, but we're not going to do that right now.
We're not going to do that. Are you kidding me? No, we got a podcast to make.
I know. We're not. But then Naruto is important, though.
What do you guys want to jump in with one here? I don't want to hog the spotlight, so take it away.
Yeah. Emily,
do you want to go first, Dallah? Because I can't help but think of, we made a similar episode of tropes we hate.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of this is maybe going to fall under similar things, but trying to just roast my favorites here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That doesn't fall under tropes necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, we did talk about silent pro tags as a trope.
Yeah.
I think the rest of my stuff is really kind of specific to the games in question. So
Now for me, I would say if I were to pick on a series, and I think we've talked about this before, but it's Persona.
Mm.
And I love Persona games. I'm a big fan of Persona 4, 5, and I played 3 back in the day. But we've gone over this before, so it's going to rehash it a little bit. But it's the respecting of time and the usage of like the count. Like there's a lot of just like wasted time, and I think a good example is Metaphor ReFantazio. Actually, if I kind of switch over to like the same typical type of game, like the Atlus style game, is that at towards the end of Metaphor ReFantazio, you have this whole sequence of like a month that like you can't move the story forward until you get through this month, and you might not have anything to do. Like, let's say if you did all the little side things that you've gone up to this point, you might be just like every day, just literally skipping the day for like, a couple of weeks in game time to move forward. And it's these things where like they kind of force you into this like calendar sequence. And I get it that like having that extra buffer of room is good for people who might need to like maybe catch up on a few random, I don't know. Like,
I think those who haven't mastered the calendar system are not efficient with their time. That might be nice.
It gives them a little bit more like leg room to kind of like flex and do some other things, but at the same time, it's just like it's things like that.
Like I want to skip to this date.
Yeah, like it's that kind of whole concept of being forced on this rail of like a calendar sequence, and within that calendar sequence is having to do very like mundane tasks sometimes. Like, oh, I'm gonna go like go eat a burger at this restaurant, and I'm going to do that like 5 or 6 times over the next month or so I can level up this one skill, or just like little specific thing that I need to get.
It's one personality stat that I need to unlock different conversations with characters or
does
whatever.
This like, I'm not as versed with Persona, but if it's a lot of like abilities or like stats that you raise while doing all these tasks, is this better for like people who are on like super difficulty modes who are trying to increase their stats to beat the boss?
Right.
Or,
no, I know what you mean.
Speedrunners,
no,
or like people who are like
it really
maxing out
is
things.
like in Persona especially, and I've only played a bit of Metaphor, but in Persona the stats that you're leveling up through these interactions tend to be like personality stats, which only affect your ability to like advance certain characters' individual social links or plot lines, right?
Which not like combat related.
Kind of
not necessarily.
It's like combat adjacent in the sense of like they might gain better, random skills, or better.
Yeah, the party member might you might gain access to baton pass like in Persona 5 if you get to a certain level with this character. I don't think that's gated behind any stat in particular, but
no, it's
just
like
as an example, right?
It's gated through like relationship status with that character, but at the same time, like having like character development be gated by these little mundane tasks is very, I wouldn't say like annoying, but it's just like something that like I wish they just let it happen. Like you can just go through the story and then you just have these character development moments that are played into the story where you don't have to like, because like at some point, like if you don't get your stat far enough, then you can never get that person, like that like relationship with that person any higher.
A cutscene,
yeah. So you lose out on like story sequences, or you lose out on like really interesting character development with that person if you don't do like these mundane tasks on a day-to-day basis.
It just sounds like going back to early JRPGs when people had so much free time and they looked up like an official guide to how to get some sort of special thing.
Right.
Kind of play it out like this.
And it's like it's
not modern.
It's a little annoying in this day and age where like Persona itself is already a very long game. It's like 80 to 90 hours
or more
on the easy end. But like if you're doing everything, and if you miss something or you screw up like a date and you didn't do the right thing, then are you stuck to either like go back to a save file if you have one, or do you have to do New Game Plus and play the whole game over again? And that's another 90 to 120 hours of time that you have to put into that. So it's just like the respect of time and making it easier. I think Branden has a really good video about that.
He does.
Oh yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah. It was a nice little rant. It was good. I enjoyed it.
We enjoy a good rant.
I know. A good Branden rant.
Well, I want to roast Fire Emblem some. I know I've roasted Three Houses quite a bit in the past, but to move away from that, I would say the more modern Fire Emblems, where you have a lot of their support kind of dialogue and kind of like Persona, right? You're unlocking these cutscenes when you increase your affinity with different characters.
Yep.
I just found a lot of those dialogues from Awakening Beyond a little boring.
Yeah.
And like a lot of them, like where you're trying to, you know, pair like two characters together and you want their like scenes really memorable or, you know, make sense. Like some of them are just so disappointing. And I know they corrected this a little bit later on, but just like restricting who their partner could be is sometimes a little bit lame. Or if like they have two of like the same sex, but it's not like no homo, you know, like they have a weird conversation with each other. And I don't know, sometimes how they went around some of the supporting text was just so lame.
I feel like, they go out of their way to
make it lame,
to make it like,
well, don't support these two characters. We want you to pair them with this one instead.
These two best friends who live together, kind of situation where it's just like, no, just like don't like just let it, you know, it's fine.
Like who cares?
So I don't have as much Fire Emblem experience, but like, do they put the emphasis on like the more important / permanent characters, like the ones that can't permadie, or is it just like the ones that you can potentially lose that are not as interesting?
So
is that a theme?
So I would say all characters, they can have up to S rank support, which is usually means in some of the games, like you get married or something like that. It's like there's a big, you've built up the relationship so much. And this could be with your personal character, like who the main character is, or any of the other characters. But not everyone could have an S support conversation with each character. They only have a select few. Some of them are kind of weird choices, like why is it this character and not this character? Like in Fire Emblem Awakening, I really wanted Chrom and Cordelia to pair up together, but there was no S rank support. I was sad. That was my canon pair, but they weren't canon, obviously.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And I don't really mind too much, like I know there's a lot of controversy about should there be, you know, gay relationships or whatever in some of these tech supports. And I wouldn't say all the characters should be, you know, like it makes sense sometimes when a character has a certain sexuality and you don't need to necessarily change that.
Yeah, no.
I'm not like against that or anything, but like some more variety or, you know, like some different tech support conversations would be nice.
I think there's just need to give out options to everybody.
Options are great, I think. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
they don't have to be everyone, but options are great.
Yeah. My question from before, so like Cordelia, is she a character that can die? Or is she like a permanent character that won't
all the
ever
characters for Awakening, I think, can die except Chrom, Robin, who's you, maybe Chrom's sister, maybe a couple others who are like integral to the main plot story. But if you're on casual mode, then they don't have to die. So
well, no, but you see what I mean is like they're not going to necessarily, and I'm wondering if this is the case, they're not going to necessarily put as much effort into the storytelling for a character that could die and then not be in the story anymore.
There's characters who you could be an S rank support and they could die.
Yeah, no, I get that. But I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out like a reasoning behind why some characters wouldn't have pairings at S rank or why like they would spend less time developing certain characters.
I think it's just limited. Like they didn't want to do everyone because it would be a lot of work because there's a lot of characters.
It would be. And that's why I say like, you know, if it's a non-permanent character that could potentially die, maybe that's where they're like, okay, we don't need to spend as much time on that.
I don't think it's that time consuming. Like, of course you'll have to write a script, but usually the dialogues are just a back and forth of maybe 5 different things they say to each other. And they usually have, you know, the still like VN style portraits. So it's not like you're asking for a ton of new art to be made. Right. And usually they just have the blushy, you know, expression or something. Like, it's like you can copy and paste that from other characters, right? They don't have to necessarily always just be this type of blushy for this character. They could be blushy for any character, you know?
Yeah.
And my thought process is that like, if you're going to give the options, let's say to, you know, romance or to get people together in certain ways, like then give it, you know, across all the major characters that have some sort of like relationship in that game.
Agreed.
Limiting it just seems like, if you're going to limit it, then you might as well just make it a very like standard story where you don't get to choose. They just like, they have their canon like romances that are part of the story. If you're giving an option to choose, then they need to be more like open with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that characters can, and like from the writer's perspective, I think characters can and should have their own sexualities. So like if I'm playing a character that can choose, potentially to court another character, like it's totally fine if I'm playing a male character. If there's another male character that is not written to be either gay or bisexual, that they would not be an option for me because that's not who that character is, right? Like that character is a straight character. And I think that's good to have like defined things. There might be some characters that are bisexual, some characters that are gay, some characters that are straight. And then, you can make your choices from within the pool of the available, characters. And then you obviously have a lot of flexibility.
Those support conversations, you don't have to open them. Like, it doesn't really matter. But also, I want to talk about some pairings I really did not like in Three Houses. There were a couple of gay support options, but they weren't romantic. Like, I think one of them like robbed and like fled the country or something as the S support rank. And like, you build up all this S support, interactions, and then you're left with this. This is awful.
I don't know if I saw that one.
I don't think I saw that one.
Look them up. The Three Houses ones were not good for some of the pairings. I'm like,
that's unfortunate.
It was unfortunate. I'm like, what are you writing here?
Nintendo's a bit iffy on their like how they write certain things sometimes.
Yeah, like and some support rings like were never romantic. They were just friendship, which is fine. Like I don't think that's a bad thing. You could have two males. They don't have to necessarily be romantic. Like I really like friendship pairings if it's nicely written and there's nice scene and interaction. They don't always have to be, wedding bells.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be romance every time. But I think giving like all the options to romance, and then also the option is friendship as well. Like if you don't want to do romance, like,
I think that would make sense for some characters, like how they're written. Like that's how they would interact with that.
And as the main character, you should be able to choose to friend zone somebody too, right? Like I friend zone you, right? Like that's the power that you want to have as the main character.
The friend zone power. specific.
But I just feel bad for some characters. Like if you're the main character and you're still trying to build up your S support, because that does help you in combat. Whenever every game's a little bit different, but it certainly does help if they have a higher support rank. But it's like you're leading on all these characters, but then you only choose one to marry.
Exactly.
So you should be able to marry them all. Why can't you marry them all?
So, Emily, what I'm getting from this,
like me, I don't know about that.
So Emily, what I'm getting from this is that there seems to be a very drastic lack of Naruto in Fire Emblem.
Apparently.
The moral of the story is we need Naruto in Fire Emblem in 2025.
No, we need them in JRPGs in general.
Naruto in every JRPG.
Naruto
Come on.
for the win.
Come on,
not that I watch much Naruto, but yes.
You know what we want. You know what the fans want. All you need to do is do it.
Apparently. Anyway, that's just something I've noticed. Like, I usually like to have canon romances when it comes to JRPGs. I don't really like the harem kind of
I agree.
Stuff that they tend to do, because I just feel like a lot of those relationships feel so flimsy and not interesting.
Yeah, I think
they're flimsy, they're uninteresting, and they're uncrucial. They don't matter to the story,
And that's like something that I think we can critique across multiple like different games.
For sure.
Just the idea of like, I know like harem is pretty popular within like, let's say anime, manga, things like that.
Yeah.
But
it has its place.
It's usually a joke. it's like you don't see
the 100 girlfriend thing.
I know.
It's usually like if it's an anime, it's usually a comedy, right? Like it's not
like they're usually like rom-coms. Usually, like there's like a handful that are probably like serious stuff, like Clannad. Was it Clannad? Was that like the kind of have like?
I mean, it didn't. The anime didn't really focus it treat it as a harem.
Yeah.
The game may have, because you had options like who you could romance choose. Or whatever. But in the anime, it was pretty straightforward. But yeah, you're right. Like that's an example with a lot of different characters that are.
They take the harem a little bit too seriously in JRPGs.
Yeah, well, that's like the influence it gets from anime.
But they're not doing it right. If it's supposed to be more tongue in cheek, you know?
Yeah. Like I need all, well, I mean, you get most of the tropes of like the types of like girls or guys you choose from in a harem, like the tsunderes and whatever they have them.
Got all the types.
All the different types. Because you
all
got
the different hair colors, all that.
It's true. There's always someone with an eye patch. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Always.
The very young kid with just the grayest hair. Just so gray.
Who's 1,000 years old. So it makes it okay.
It's they're lowly hags. Is that the term?
Yeah, lowly hag.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all right. They're like 1,000-year-old dragon person that
I think I learned that from ReZero because I'm pretty sure the localization actually used the term lowly hag, which is just pretty funny.
Which is actually
I think they did. Yeah.
Pretty funny that they went like on the nose with that. They just leaned straight into it. Which, even though it's not great, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it
is. To end the conversation, or I guess
the Fire Emblem
this point of Fire Emblem, while I do have qualms about the support conversations and things like that, I don't know if Fire Emblem's any better to have these, because the earlier games, well, they had some support conversations in some form. I do feel like they've maybe brought it a little bit too far post-Awakening. It's kind of my critique.
It's become more of a focus than it should be.
It has. And while I think it's kind of fun, you know, like to have some support conversations to make the game a little bit more fun, I don't like the focus on it necessarily, especially what they did in Three Houses.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. All right. There you go. There you have it. More Naruto.
Well, I've got a few. I don't know. I'm trying to think because I don't, we obviously want to be respectful of people's time and don't want to go through,
repeat
everything
4 hours of things and
I could jump in
repeat ourselves. Go ahead.
I want to dive into one of our favorite series.
Oh,
not the one everyone thinks, but Xeno.
Paper Mario, right?
Yeah. Paper Mario. That's it. I have lots of critiques of Paper Mario. Actually, yeah, I could probably think.
Probably could come up with some, but
probably could. But I have one for 1,000-Year Door. The slow text. God, drove me up the wall.
That's Anytime there is slow text, I do not
slow.
Like
Xenogears. Let me tell you, slow text.
Oh my God!
Even as a kid, I was like,
I was dying.
This is too slow, guys. Too slow.
Yeah, the fact that I like it when they let you skip in, like you can just skip through the end
you just have it fully shown, and then you
hit it. It shows up fully. You read it, hit it, boom.
Exactly. That's how it should be.
It's the best.
I just when you're forced, in the beginning of Xenogears, when you have that
that long 4 pages of text scroll
and it
or whatever,
takes forever.
I mean, at least there's some banging music playing while you're listening to it.
It is.
Of Stars and Song of Star and Fire. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's really good. Really good song.
It's really good.
Anyway, you were going to talk about Trails, though. You were
no. I was actually going to talk about Xeno
first, please.
Oh yeah, Emily, go ahead.
I wanted to mention related text. I like it when they have auto advance for the text when there's voice acting, but when they don't enable that, don't have that function, you have to keep pressing it after they talk. It's so annoying.
It's like the one thing I wish Expedition 33 had.
Yes, that really bugged me as Expedition 33.
It's the having to push the button if there's no auto advance, and it always making a sound when you push the button. You know what I'm talking about?
Too. They had did
the
that
little
in
boom or boom.
They did that. What was recently? It came out earlier this year from NAS. The strategy RPG. What's it called?
Yeah, Phantom Brave.
Phantom Brave.
Lost
the new one. They did little sound every single time. That was so
every time you hit it. Yeah, I hate that. It wasn't Expedition 33 too, right? The conversations that were text box conversations. It
they did not
had to hit it, and it made a sound when you hit it.
I don't remember a sound.
I think it did. I have to double check, but
I don't know if I was on the PC, so maybe it's a little bit different.
Could be. Maybe there's an option to turn it down too. I didn't even look, but I just remember. Yeah. Because I feel like I remember thinking Emily would be annoyed by this. I feel like I remember having that thought.
I like that you casually, when you're just relaxing, playing something, you're in your mind, you're like, Emily would hate this.
Emily would be annoyed by this. Yeah. I just remember because she was talking about it. I think when Phantom Brave came out, I think I remember you talking about that.
It was so nice.
Yeah, the advancing the dialogue is it's an issue.
And also having text boxes where you can't see the background image and it disrupts it.
Yes.
Max Version 33 did a little bit with the blurry text box.
Yeah.
Why is that necessary?
Yeah.
Anyway,
one thing to go back to what I was going to say. So I was going to bring up Xeno, like the Xeno world. So I'm going to specifically I'm going to talk about Xenoblade.
okay.
Just because my biggest gripe with Xenoblade is that it's too busy. You cannot like enjoy the world around you, or sometimes like I feel like the HUD is so much going on, especially in a battle sequence. Like you have all these things popping up,
the
like
UI
numbers, the UI, like you have all these things on the right, the left, the top, bottom, everything. So like, it's just like, I've seen some people like post screenshots on like Twitter sometimes, and they're just like, what the hell is all of this? And it's like, you see this like screen and it's like literally the most stuff all over.
Yeah.
And it's just
I think
like
3 was maybe the most egregious with the stuff they had on the screen.
Like I just feel like maybe they need help with like a UI designer, UI UX designer to kind of sit down and be like, less is more sometimes. Like you don't need to have everything on there.
But also I didn't mind after a while. Like I got used to it. And also I think because I played a lot of MMOs that I was used to that too.
Yes.
But
it definitely has an MMO flavor to it. It's not good design. Yeah, like there are better ways to do most of those things. And like you even saw some of their design evolve over the course of even Xenoblade, right? Like in the first 2 games, all of the commands are just a long bar across the bottom of the screen, right? And then by the time Xenoblade 2 came out, they switched over to the 4 thing. So they already improved that, right? So it's like there are other elements of the design, of the UI design that could, I think, be similarly improved and condensed. That they hopefully are considering and working on, because it's just there's a lot going on.
I think they need to cut down the party members. Maybe they're just too many, especially in 3. And then you could have the guests
6 at a time
too.
plus the extra one.
And like I feel like they just like, even if like I know like people love all the different mechanics in a battle system, but there's like you can have complex battle mechanics without having everything like be a trigger on the screen itself. Like it could be just part of like how you button press or things like that. That way
you
you're
mean like
up.
when it signals like, oh, you could press this for this combo? Like what do you mean by that?
Those things as well. Like I feel like that's a little too like, maybe every once in a while, like there's just so many things popping up at like all over the place, like constantly throughout the battle. And even like, Xenoblade Chronicles X, like if I blink, I'll miss like a button press.
You have to be
like,
engaged. For sure.
every time I like, I like my eye just moves to like elsewhere for a second, and I look back and I'm just like failed across
even
the scene.
Like,
I'm just like, come on.
The spirit.
Even with all the auto attacks, you have to be very like proactive.
I know it's just like there's like a lot going on, which is not bad. Like it keeps you integrated into the battle sequence, and it's that makes it more engaging. But I feel like it's just messy. Like from a visual perspective, like that's my biggest thing.
Option where you don't have, you could turn that on if you need to. Like if you want to just chill.
Like just put it on.
Like I don't know, it's like Honkai Star Rail where you could have auto battle, which I enable a lot when I'm just doing my dailies. But it does kind of separate you from the game, and it's more you watching it than actually playing it.
Yeah,
so.
I felt that way too with Honkai in particular when I was playing it. Like just turn auto battle on. It's like I'm not even playing this. I'm like I'm just sitting here with it.
I just grind it for my dailies mostly. So
I'm babysitting this game. Like
that's
it doesn't need me to be
if
here.
you don't want to pay.
I don't think I need auto battle per se in like a Xeno game. I mean, I would say like there's ways to get around like. You can drop it down to easy if you want to like grind, let's say quickly. If you want to do a grind session, like that's fine. But it's more like my biggest gripe. I think what I'm trying to get out is just like visually. Like I think
the
it's
UI
just, like,
design
it's very overstimulating.
I agree.
And there's just like a lot of flashing bits all over the screen that's happening all at once, and trying to keep track of all the different pieces. It just seems like it's like there's got to be a better way to handle that isn't too like. Just like it's just not.
I think
nice
all they have
looking.
to do is get rid of your party members. That will clean. I think that's the best they could do.
0 party members.
I think
like
a
you
lot
can have
of
2 maybe max.
Yeah.
I think there's two. I think there's 2 ways they could go about.
That's not boring.
Refining it. I think they could either condense and consolidate some of the information.
I think that's the key.
Or they could simplify the GD combat system a little bit, because it is very complicated.
That's true. I think a little mixture of both. I think they need to like simplify at least the style
my issue
of
with
the combat.
though. When
Like-
they simplified the battle systems, I found it a little bit boring after a while.
But like, like you can keep like, let's say from 2. So 2 has like the most like, let's say complex battle system where you can, you're doing a lot of like, you know, you're launching, you're not just, you know, you're not, there's a combo system basically. You're basically
combos,
trying to,
there's elements. Yeah.
but like those combo systems are not tied to like pieces of the UI sometimes. Like, you know, you just do an attack that's going to knock this thing down, and then you're going to launch it, and then you're going to do like, you know, your thing. So like you have the
Smash
sequence,
or whatever.
like you understand the concepts of that like combo that doesn't require having to like physically see something on the screen.
There's not a UI element that says,
think you
now you
need
need to
that
do this,
prompt,
right? Like,
though.
that's smart.
Yeah. Like,
I think you need that prompt, especially for the positioning ones.
If
Because
you need-
sometimes you
if
don't
you
know
need
if you're
to-
really behind or on the side.
if you need to prompt every single bit of your battle system, then it's too complicated. Like if you have to,
I think so.
but if you have to, because like that's the beauty of game design or like design in general. It's like you want things to kind of like, let's say like Mario, like in the initial Mario games, like it taught you, or a lot of platformers do this. It's like it teaches you what the mechanics are through gameplay. And so like, you know, you didn't know what you were supposed to do, but then you tried it once and you're like, oh, okay, like now I know every time I see this, I do this. And so like, that's how they teach you. And so like, if they have to hold your hand, like, you know, it's a lot of games later on in like, let's say the PS2, PS3 era, it's like you have the instructions that keep popping up and things like that, telling you how these things, and that's like a product of like, not of it being a little too complicated that they can't teach you through game design casually. And so like, I think like Xenoblade can find a balance of like some things it can teach you, you know, off the bat, like, cause like, it's always going to be a little complicated. I think that's his style.
Yeah, I don't think you could totally get rid
No.
of those
But there's
prompts
things you
at
can take
all,
out from the
because
UI.
I think it's hard to also just see, you know, what's going on.
And that's the problem, because there's too much on the screen. So like if they
It's not just that
minimized
it's on the
it,
screen. It's just, if you look at the environment, it's very difficult to see what you're doing, what your party's doing. That's why you need those prompts.
Because
so
much of the battle system is based on, like you were saying, which direction you're facing, or how, you know, what part of the enemy you're closest to, or this or that. And that's what I mean. Like that's kind of what I mean, is like one possible solution is, let's maybe simplify it down a little bit. You know, there's things where you could still have
like the chain attacks in 3 are so boring now.
Well, but that's I think that's just a design flaw. That's not like a result of just simplification in and of itself. Like, you can simplify something and
still
have
make
it still
challenging.
be fun.
Like,
and still have it
simplification
be
is
challenging.
like simplification is like, we're not simplifying it in the sense of like, I want this to be easy as all.
I want this to be easier and not
No, I know.
require
It's just
any.
fewer things.
Because like, if you think about
I
it,
just
like
feel like it'll be boring.
if you look at it, like, let's say the simplification of like, Expedition 33, it's not very complex. It's not like a complex system of like, you know, you're not going to sit there and have to be like, I don't know what I'm doing in this moment. Like, you know, everything that you need to do. Is it hard? Yes, it's hard as dirt. Like, it's hard. It's real hard. And so like, you can still have a challenging system, but a simplification of how that's delivered and done. And that's my biggest thing, is like, keep the challenge there. Like, give the option of like, there needs to be some sort of challenge. There must be like some fun combos, keeps it fresh, and like have things be there, but simplify how it's being given to you. Simplify how it's being shown on the UI, especially. Just make it a lot more pleasing to the eye, I think. Like, because everything else looks beautiful in that game. Like, you know, the landscapes, everything, like the characters, the designs of the enemies and everything like that. Everything looks so good. If you just took away a lot of this, like, useless, like, I don't know, just, you know, lines and arrows and all these things that are like flying all over the place, like, figure out a way to kind of streamline that and make it very easy to digest in a way that makes the like screen visually pleasing.
Well, I think we might have to agree to disagree on this. I don't think it's that bad, but maybe I'm just so used to it now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm used to it too. I can also say that, like,
I like how different it is too. Like, it's messy. I think it's
messy's not good though.
I think it's a beautiful
in my opinion. But that's where we can agree to disagree on this one. So
I kind of wonder if that's something that they get criticism for as a development studio.
Yeah, of course they do.
And no, I mean, like, from their colleagues, not just from like reviewers or whatever. Like, I'm wondering if that's something that they take to heart And maybe their efforts to address some of those concerns in 3 didn't quite go the way that everybody would have wanted them to, right? If it wasn't quite as engaging.
We saw what they did in the DLCs for both 2 and 3. They simplified the combat system.
They did.
So
and it worked well.
They decided that was maybe a good experience for a shorter DLC story, but not for the main game.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the distinction here. Like, they could simplify the UI and everything and make the combat like more simplified. But for the long running, because their games are usually 100 hours, they're probably thinking that it's going to be a little bit boring to, go that simpler route for the main story. So that's
part of it is like part of it is the path they chose for like the bulk of the combat, right? They're using an MMO style.
Yes.
So without complexity, there is a greater chance of it becoming monotonous, just because it's kind of like I don't want to say that. I'm going to get people mad at me.
Say it.
It's not the. I'll put it this way.
Emily's like, please do it.
I'll put it this way. It's like it's the back of the napkin sketch of what a battle system could be. How do I want to put it? It's just like it's not
refined.
It's not refined to the level of other JRPGs, because it's auto battle. Like if you've conceded the need for there to be an auto fight thing where your character just is auto attacking, like something has gone wrong, in my opinion, in the development of your combat system, because you're taking something fundamental to combat, which is like swinging your weapon, and you're like, you don't have to do that. Don't worry about that. Like we'll do that for you. That's fine. And then you're going to do all these other things on the menu.
They subvert though the common attack, and it lets you concentrate on the other like more interesting elements of the battle. I don't know. I personally really like it, but then again, I like the gambit system in Final Fantasy 12. So
I don't find
like bias lies.
There's different levels of how much control you have as a player and how much they want to let you have and whatnot. Like I've said before, like the battle system is probably like my least favorite part of the Xenoblade series. Like it's not bad and I don't dislike it. It's just like not the thing I get excited about when I'm looking at playing a new Xenoblade game. It's like, oh, what's going to happen in the story? What's the music? Everything else.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would need to do to it to like flip that around to make the battles be the thing I was most excited about. They would be drastically changing
MMO style. I don't think. Yeah, they're gonna have to.
They would have to drastically change it, and I don't think that it's necessary for them to change the identity of the series to appease that crowd.
Well, they might change it for the next iteration.
I mean, they could. We might have seen the end of Xenoblade, right? Like the next game might be something else, and it may take a completely different form because every one of them has taken a different form.
Because like Takahashi-san said, like this is the end. Like 3 and like Future Redeemed was the end of this like Xenoblade as we know it. Yeah. And then whatever happens next is this whole iteration. Like it's going to be a next version of whatever this becomes.
Next thing.
So we don't know what that battle system will look like or what avenues he's going to take.
So that's all interesting stuff. And we'd love to hear people's thoughts on the complexity or otherwise of the Xenoblade combat system down in the comments. But before we leave Xeno behind, I want to mention one thing about Xenogears. And I know we already talked about the slow dialogue, but we have to talk about the platforming in Xenogears.
Oh, gosh.
We have to talk about the Tower of Babel in particular. Right? Everybody who has played Xenogears in its entirety will tell you their own personal horror story about the Tower of Babel in Xenogears, because you are jumping around with the worst camera, the worst control up
like
this
tank
massive
controls.
Tower. Yeah, it's like
it's
awful. I hate precision platformers. They try to add that into it, and it does not work.
If you have a precision platform that gives you precise controls, okay. Right? Yeah. Then I don't feel like the game is fighting me. If I mess up, it's my fault, right? If you mess up in Xenogears with a platforming bit, it is not your fault. I'm here to tell you, audience, it's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. The game is the one who is wrong.
They could have saved some money in development by not doing that and put it towards finishing disc 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Like you can measure, that's the crazy thing. You can measure in dollars or in yen how much money it costs them to implement the jumping. And I would be so curious. I'd be so curious to know how much money they spent on implementing the ability to
time.
jump.
In creating
And
the
the
Tower
time.
of Babel and like, just creating the depth of that, like that dungeon basically.
Yeah.
That costs a lot of money and time, I'm sure, to get that situated and done. So like, was it necessary? Absolutely not. Should it have been done? No, definitely not. That was
Is
a
that
bad.
Spent a lot of time and money on something that everybody hated.
Look at this. This is what's going to make this game stand out.
I know.
Everyone's gonna love this.
Somebody was like wide-eyed youngster was like, this is going to be so great. Oh, I can't wait to read the reviews and see how everybody loves the platforming in our role-playing game.
I'm curious to see. I wonder who did that.
In theory, they thought it was a great idea, but in practice, they realized it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
They're like,
I even questioned the theory behind it. Like, maybe it's just like, 25 years of lived life beyond that. But like, it's like, I don't, I guess
someone there
fine.
just wanted to create their own platformer.
Yeah.
And I think like the problem is, I think, is at the time, there's like the group of people who are working on that game were all super ambitious.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do everything. Like they could tell, like they were just like, they wanted to throw everything from a story to the music to the gauge, like how the game plays and stuff like that. They're just like way too ambitious for their own good.
Mm-hmm.
And it shot them in the foot in that sense, as well as not being able to finish the game. Yeah. To finish the game as well, which is a product of like that is a domino effect from that ambition.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the worst part of that game. I still have nightmares. Still wake up in sweats.
Like missing the jump and plummeting
so far down,
all the way down, far down. And like desperately trying to push
Expedition
yourself
33?
against the wall. The what?
What's that?
Did you guys do the the Expedition 33? Did you fall?
The parkour. Yeah, I fell a few times.
The gestural stuff.
Yeah,
I fell a few times on the gestural climbing one. And on the one over the water.
I fell once halfway. So I didn't plummet in the water. Which is nice.
I fell I don't know, half a dozen times, I think.
I fell a bunch.
And I mean, it made the victory more. Well, you know what was the worst?
The main person made
when I got up to the top, I got up to the top and I was like, yeah, I did it. And then I didn't look down and I just ran forward and there's a freaking hole in the ground.
Yeah,
and then you fall back down. Like, what?
I don't. If I were you, I would have just refused to climb it again.
I had words to say.
Yeah.
When that happened, I
did wonder if anyone would fall in that pit. But
yeah, I just was not paying attention. I had the camera angled up, and I'm like looking at the guy up on the hill. I'm like, "Let's go!"
Oh my god,
yeah, that's terrible. I fell a few times on the horizontal one over the water, where like the tide kind of washes over the logs or whatever.
Yeah.
That one was not nearly as tricky though as the parkour over up the thing.
Yeah. Those are, I mean, it's not as, it's not Xeno Gears bad, but it's
no, it wasn't bad. Like
it wasn't that bad.
The few times that I like the times that I fell, I do kind of feel like it wasn't my fault because I would jump against a ledge that you would normally grab onto and pull yourself up, and the character just wouldn't grab onto it. And I'm like, and then I would do it again, and they would. So I'm like, where am I failing? Like, what is
a fraction?
Yeah, like I'm a pixel off, or a pixel too far to the right, or a pixel too far to the left.
It's like their parrying window. To be precise.
It's like so narrow, and it's not clear where you have to be, like where you have to connect. Like, can you connect here? Do you have to connect up here? Like, so the handful of times that I did fall, maybe once I was like, yeah, that was my fault, but the rest of the times I'm like, I don't know.
I think I'm just used to finicky platformers, like on the PS2. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
You get used to those things, but when it's not like a platformer of a game, it kind of throws you off.
For sure.
Show enough. I was surprised at how many like bonus games there were in that game.
There's so much. This game that game is like packed with things to do.
And they said they want to do DLC. What are they going to add?
I don't know what they're going to. I hope the DLC is just you being able to play as Expedition 60 Did you find Expedition 60's?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. Yeah,
It's the expedition.
it's a good one.
That their whole shtick was they relied on their muscles and no clothes. So they, like it was if you read it, they're just like the clothes it's gonna hold us back, and they just like talked about being like super. Just everyone's very buff. I just picture like a very like oiled up buff people just like running there, and they made it the furthest like because like you find it in the weirdest spot like near the end of the game, and so like they got all the way to the end of like close to them getting to everything you need to do, and it's just look up Expedition 60. It is the funniest. I was like, because like I came across it randomly and I was like listening to them like what are they saying? I'm like, oh, this is weird. Like it must have been like they must have made this one as a joke, as just like if you find this hilarious.
Yeah. Some of them were like clearly meant to be just more humorous than like, tragic.
Exactly. But that one is like the funniest.
While we're on the subject of Expedition 33, the one thing, and I honestly think this is like the one thing, like criticism that I have from the perspective of a player and a perspective of storytelling with Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I don't like the way the ending was handled.
Really?
I don't care for the, they're telling this tragic story and it's beautiful and it's just incredible. And then suddenly at the last minute, they introduce this element of choice that has not been present anywhere throughout the rest of the game. They drop this choice on you, and it's not like it's not congruent with the rest of the storytelling. And I don't think that they should have done that. Like they could keep the ending. Like they could, I'm not saying I have an issue.
Though?
Well, I don't have an issue with either of the endings. I think they're both appropriate endings for the game, but they could pick one or they could do something different. So
you like the canon ending?
I think that they set us up
Which
for
one
a
is
canon
the canon
ending, and then they got cold feet at the last minute.
I don't want to turn this into
like to me.
Spoiler cast.
No, we're not going to say what happens. We're not going to say what happens. But I think they got cold feet at the last minute. I think they got cold feet at the last minute and didn't want to commit to an ending. And
I
so they put it on
with
us.
The cold feet sentiment. I
feel like
there's a sequel in the works, and I think it's going to be woven into how they handle the ending.
I mean, I think that will be what happens. I think that developers often have to do things like that when they create multiple endings and they want to continue a series. I think there's plenty of ways they could do a sequel. I think there's plenty of ways they could do a sequel that wouldn't require them to even address what really happened or whatever.
I don't
there's
think
like that world that they created is so rich and has so much potential. They could do so many different things.
There's more to it than what that is, but I don't know. I kind of disagree, Brandon.
That's fine. This is my first time disagreeing. I'm just looking at it from my perspective, like how I felt in the end. I was like, that was the wrong choice from a creative standpoint. In my perspective, that was the wrong choice to make. They should have. I thought it was told the story.
I felt like it was a culmination.
Told the story and like committed to it.
I feel like the ending was a culmination of like these like two like because like basically you're dealing with like Verso's thought processes and then Miles' thought processes through this, and so like you start to see them delve into like their own perception of all these different things that are happening and like how they feel about the situation. And so like I felt like it was like the culmination of all these like two like scenarios happening at the same time. And so like they give you the choice at the end to determine like what you want to do with those choices. And I feel like
it's like if you watch a movie that's avant-garde and the ending is a little ambiguous, you don't really know what happens. I think here it's still an ambiguous ending, but you kind of see out what the scenarios would have been. Doesn't mean one of them's necessarily correct, but we can kind of see the scenarios. So I like.
I can agree that it's avant-garde. I just don't think it's good. You know what I mean? Like,
I like
I don't think all stories should be straightforward. Personally,
no, I don't think all stories should be. I just like the reason I have a problem with this one is, like I said, there was no element of choice throughout the entirety of the game, and then in the last minute, they're like, okay, now you have a choice. Make a choice now. It's like, No,
It's
that's
like-
wrong. That ain't it. That ain't it, guys. That ain't it.
Well, because like I wouldn't care to have it. Like there was no need for a choice the whole game. Like if you
It
get
wasn't necessarily a choice. I think it was a window. Do you want to
Yeah,
see what
like-
happens here or there? I don't think we necessarily chose because we
Because,
could
like-
always replay and see what happened if you went the other way.
yeah,
Well, but I just
either
mean
way,
like
it's
the element of a choice being presented, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want to control in this final conflict, right? Like that's a choice.
I agree. I don't
Yeah.
think
That's-
it's. I don't. Yeah.
because I think
That's what I
like
was
But
trying
again,
to
like
say.
we're
I
not
don't
talking
think
about
it's
the
necessarily
like
a
we're not
choice,
talking
though.
about the canon. Like we're not talking about even what the ending is or like what the two possible endings are. I think they're both cool. Like I think I've seen both endings. I think they're both really cool endings. Like
Yeah.
very fitting either way you go. They're very fitting endings to the story. I just don't think there should have been a choice. I think they
No.
should have chosen
That's
an
why
ending.
I'm trying to say that it wasn't a choice. Like, even though it
just-
looks like a presented choice, it's a false choice.
Well, it's still a choice. I mean, because like they're two separate
it's-
endings. Like they're very drastic, different things
They're
happening.
like push X to do this, push a
I
triangle
don't
to do
think it's
that.
a choice, though.
like,
But anyway, we don't have to get on. Like,
I do.
stick on
I
this
do. I think we.
for our
like,
audience sake.
I do want to talk about this at some point, though. I think having
Yeah, we
like
could do a spoiler cast.
We could do a
version.
spoiler cast at some point and go into more detail on it.
because like I am interested to talk about the ending of this game. There's a lot of thought process I have around this.
Sure.
But yeah,
Let's go into roasting our favorites, though.
Yeah, so I think we can't really wrap
Is
this
it
up
time?
without talking about Trails.
is it time, guys?
I think we have to. I think we gotta.
Time till trials.
You know, we may love it, but we cannot pretend that there is not plenty of stuff to pick apart.
I mean, a lot of the stuff we talked about
Trails?
earlier in this episode, we
Kiseki.
can pick it apart. Also in Trails, like having lots of little odd jobs that you have to do sometimes, can be a little. Some things can be very mundane.
There's some mundanity for sure.
The cold steel harem,
The Cold Steel Harem.
that's no fun.
The less obvious but still sort of present in the background Crossbell Harem.
Yeah, like that one is.
It's less obvious. It's less
Yeah.
in your face, but it was kind of laying
It's
the
still
groundwork
kind of-
for that harem.
Yeah. It was
Also, the current Calvert arc, kind of. A little bit.
A little bit. Like there's
Really?
there's
Yeah.
less of a
So
harem.
I think there's.
but
I
more-
think that's a story. I think that's built into the story, though. That's not you making choices.
they kind of let you make a
could
choice.
you could choose who you go on your little
Your school
date
festival
with or
stuff.
whatever, you know, for the school
Yeah,
festival.
yeah, but you're not
and
like
also
you're not.
the
You're not
But it doesn't
building
affect-
points like in the background.
It doesn't
to, like,
affect
get
who you end
different-
up with.
Right. That's what I mean.
Sure.
It's
That's what I meant.
so
It's-
different from
it's
the Cold
kind of.
Steel.
It's not like Cold Steel where you like at the end you have some sort of like relationship.
but
Like
there's still
culmination
affinity
of
stuff
things.
you
There's
can
still-
build.
Yeah, there
and
is still
events
affinity.
you could choose to see versus not see.
Yes,
Right.
There's still that, which can be, it's a little annoying because you have to you can't do everything in one run. You have to play it multiple times to see everybody's stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
And you have
which
to rely
is-
on a guide too sometimes just to
Yeah.
get everything, which
Darn really.
Yeah,
I
I had
prefer
put.
playing without a guide.
I had
but
put
can't.
specifically, especially early on, up until Cold Steel
Yes.
3, I think,
Yes.
like
Guide was necessary.
the hidden quests. The
Yes.
hidden quests
I
are
hated that.
ridiculous. I hate that so much. Like,
I hope they are
especially
gone in this remake coming up.
oh, they are gone.
I don't
Well,
know.
I'm
I said I
assuming.
hope.
Yeah, I'm assuming
I
they
would
will be.
imagine they
They
got
have
rid
to
of
be
them.
because they've changed that design like
They have.
pretty substantially. So I'd be shocked if they weren't gone.
Though I wonder if some things would be a little bit more like if they were to get rid of that element and maybe some other ones, would the remake be too easy, Because there was a challenge to the first Sky games,
Yeah.
Well,
I just wonder how much
it would be
this-
like it depends on what you mean by challenge. I think because like
Yeah.
it's challenging in a way to have to go around and like talk to everybody to find the hidden quests.
Yeah.
But it's challenging for me. It would be like challenging my patience and
Yeah.
not like my game playing
There's
ability,
that,
right?
but, yeah, there's definitely that. There's also like getting certain items and
Like missable
know,
things. Yeah.
missable things that would help you, especially in some boss battles.
I mean, there are so they've
wonder if they're gonna
kind
bring
of
back the
moved away
books and
from
stuff.
that too. They have like the antique dealers now,
Exactly.
where you can go and buy the missed items. So I wonder if they would do that.
Yeah. So
they would put that
would that
in.
just make, the final bosses too easy. Because I remember I had a challenge when I first started playing Trails on the Vita.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, is this going to be just an easy breezy game? Because right now I think the modern Trails games are very easy. If
They're
you
pretty
follow
easy.
guide.
I suspect that. Yeah, I suspect they'll probably be easier than the original.
I think they're going to be easier just in the sense of like, because like what made the original Trails games like more difficult is like not having very much like they're a product of the time. Like they're not
true.
holding
They're
your
20 years
hand.
old.
Like
Yes.
they're not giving you like a lot of like options that you'd get like from just easier game design or better game, like quote unquote better game design.
You have to
as you have for now.
master a specific thing.
Exactly. You
Yeah,
mastered
do well.
it, or you memorized it, or you just like you were a person who was like OCD and checked every little nook and cranny and talked to every single person to kind of get like their whole.
And maybe did some grinding. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it was a product of that time period where it's like a lot more grindy, a lot more like time consuming, which, you know, in our age now where we don't have a lot of time to give to a lot of games.
And too many options.
Yeah.
Too many
I don't
games,
mind them. I don't mind them. And if you ever want to play it hard, then just play it on Nightmare mode.
Yeah,
There
that's
it is.
I
Sure,
think that's
yeah,
what they've sort of leaned into more.
Yeah.
That's been their solution for people that want the challenge, right? I like when we talked about when we had David Vincent on, you know, talking about the hand holdiness of modern games. I still like, I would love it if there was an option where I could turn on all the hidden quest markers or turn them off if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Or like have the ability to purchase missed items or just don't if I choose not to, right? Like,
Yeah.
I like the option for that hand holdiness, and I will probably use it more often than not. If I'm honest, I'll probably use it. But having the ability to turn that off, that seems like a pretty simple flag to set for the programmers, right? Like, just give me that option. And I think that solves the problem of difficulty for a lot of people, because then you can kind of make the experience how you want it to be.
Yeah. I think giving people the opportunity to make what
I think they
want.
did that for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, like the things you could find in the mini map.
I mean,
I think they had auto, they were like there, and then I think you could have turned them off.
And it's like the same thing like people make, you know, with the Pokemon series, like you have the Nuzlocks that people do to make their experiences more a lot harder. So like people can
that's
come
outside
up with ways.
of the
That's outside of
developer's
development,
scope,
yes.
you know.
Yeah.
But like there are ways people can challenge themselves with a game design and things like that. Like even if it's games.
I think it's cool, like when developers take into account the kind of interesting things that people come up with to challenge themselves in a game and kind of implement that into the game itself. Like there's games now that have speedrunning modes where it's designed for that. Like if you want to get really good at speedrunning the game. I think you could also have a you know, Pokemon could introduce a Nuzlocke option where it's like, okay, you've turned this option on. So now these Pokemon, if they faint, they're gone and you can't use them anymore, or whatever the Nuzlocke might be that you're playing. Like that would be fun. And I think like for Trails, it's kind of the same idea, right? Where it's like, yeah, okay, you can turn it on Nightmare and it's the battles are harder or whatever. But there's other elements of the game that if you want to have more of a sense of exploration, you don't want to have just a thing on the mini map that's telling you, oh, that's where I've got to go. Oh, there's a hidden thing there. I better go grab that because it's literally on my map, right?
Yeah.
You know, then
Has the
you
game
have the
actually had an option to turn off the mini map?
Does what one?
I don't know if a game that's had the option just to remove the mini map entirely. I wonder if that
There are
out there.
some, but I usually don't turn it off. But there are some.
Yeah.
There's some games that like you can. I'm trying to remember. Does Dragon Quest give you the option to like flip through what the type of map that shows up on the screen? I'm trying to remember what game it is.
Don't recall.
I can't think of off the top of it, but like I remember like you can change it where like you're looking at it becomes like across the screen itself, like you're looking and then there's one that you can like you flip through like zooms in, or you have it at the corner, or you can just turn it off altogether. And I can't think of the game though. I can picture it, but I can't think of it.
No worries.
But there are games that I think have done something like that before,
and that's a cool option. You know, if you
makes
want to just
easier.
like remove temptation from yourself, like if you're like, I'm going to challenge myself, I'm just going to like, you know, run through this map Claire Obscure style and not have any kind of mini map at all, right? Like that's a fun option.
That's also what I liked about like Elden Ring. Like you don't have to look at your map per se,
right?
Like,
I mean, you do, but like it's a conscious choice you make. Like
exactly.
you take the map out and look at it. You're not just like shown the map all the time.
Yeah,
right?
and like the game Ghost of Tsushima, if you've ever played that, it actually, the wind
It directs
you where to go. So like they make it where you don't have to have any like UI elements. You can kind of just play the game and just like immerse yourself.
Oh yeah, that's like Shadow of the Colossus or also Elden Ring does that too with like Follow the Light.
Exactly. I love it when like developers become creative with how they do those things.
See, that's such good. I think it's technically UI design because
it is UI design,
but it's like what's the
baked
word
into the
diegetic. You know, like music can be diegetic in a scene where it's like it's actually playing in the scene, but it's like diegetic.
Those games get away with it because there's only one character you're focused on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a lot more simpler. And the battles, like the battle sequences, are more like they're action based, so it's a little more easy.
Yeah, they look more realistic, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's like when I first played Ghost of Tsushima, it blew me away. I was like, how is this so beautiful? Like, and like it just the way they designed that whole world and how you play in it is just like very much like immersive. Like you don't have to experience anything outside of just like going off on your horse and exactly. You can just go around and write haikus. And so like. I can go on about Ghost of Tsushima, but I will not. Anyways,
we need haikus and JRPGs. Apparently.
I know.
Yeah, we don't have nearly enough.
I don't know of any. Which ones are there?
I don't think there is any.
I feel like it's just come up as a joke. You don't write them, but like they'll character will say haiku as a joke or something.
Sure.
I feel like I've definitely seen that at some point. But one other thing I wanted to say, there may be other things that I just haven't thought of yet about Trails that gets under my skin is some of their. Like I've praised their writing. I think their writing is very good in terms of their storytelling. Some of their incidental moment-to-moment dialogue is poor. And I'm not talking about like the localization. I think the localization is fine. I think the localization is just translating what is being said. And I think what is being said is the thing I have an issue with, where it's like every time some character shows up and, they're some famous warrior, it's like, oh, that's just like the Crimson Dove or whatever. Oh, I would expect nothing less from the Crimson Dove. Everybody says that crap about every character.
I know.
And it's like, calm down, everybody. It is not everybody is awesome.
Yeah.
It is.
And also, why aren't these characters that are supposedly so awesome? Why isn't Aurelia Le Guin on the front lines? Why is a bunch of kids having to deal with this stuff? Right. You guys are the best warriors in history, and you single-handedly take on 4 of us and kick our butts. Why aren't you out there fighting? Why is it the kids? Things like that that keep me up at night.
It's it's a product of it's the most anime type game.
It's the most anime, yes.
That it is the weebiest situation, and that's like not saying it's always a bad thing, but like that kind of that answers your question of why it's like that. Yeah. It's like these tropes are ingrained.
They're anime tropes,
anime trope.
And in moderation, it's fine. I feel like Daybreak has been a lot more moderate with that stuff. It was really just the Cold Steel arc that was super leaned into that.
The most obvious.
The most obvious implementation of that trope.
They went hard on that trope in Cold Steel.
And Cold Steel is the largest portion, the largest single portion of the series.
4 games.
So it's like it sticks out,
4 games plus Reverie. That was basically
4 and 2/3 of the games are Cold Steel.
What's ridiculous.
Basically, would you say there's too much dialogue in cutscenes and Trails?
Yes, because the characters praise each other too much.
I think, and they were talk like whenever they talk about their names or something, like there's always or encouraging each other to do something. It's just we get it.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
it is,
and that's an element where I think it's bad writing on the part of the original writers. Like it's not a localization problem because they're just saying what's being said. Like it's the original writing that's like another editorial pass. I think would be helpful.
Even I don't even
filler
know
in
if
some
it's
ways.
Filler. Yeah,
I don't even know if editorial pass will help that because like it is ingrained
just how they talk
in
right?
their and how they do things. Like they always have to have like they'll do like a whole like 5-minute sequence of them just hyping each other for like a sequence right before they you get to a boss or right before you
hear
do something.
Every single
and
character.
every person gets like a screen time of like they have to have their one like slime
Their moment.
of like, you know, they'll have the most like cringe, like I wouldn't say cringy, but like it's slightly cringy, like
it's
line.
pretty cringy. Yeah,
It's a little cringe.
It's they and I mean, we love Trails, but like, yeah.
Do we
like,
also think the NPCs have too much dialogue because it changes so frequently? Because I don't actually go and check every single time.
I'm a don't talk to a NPC person.
Oh,
I don't talk to
I talk
the
to the ones
NPCs.
I like, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, if the ones that are
Yeah.
recurring, I'll chat with. But just in general, I'm not an NPC guy in role playing games. So, and this across all games, right? If I don't have to talk to an NPC, I probably won't. So it doesn't really bother me. But I think it's cool. I think it's something that I've definitely shared with people that like that sort of rich world. And I'm like, hey, this is one cool thing about this series is all these NPCs have stories that are being carried out throughout the game, and you can talk to them and learn more about them throughout the whole game. And that's cool, but it's not for me, right?
I felt like that was better back in like, I think I liked it more in Trails in the Sky. I think there was more to the NPCs back then than there are is like Trails Cold Steel. Like I didn't really care about the NPCs as much. There's like not much I was going to get out of it. Daybreak doesn't have as much in terms of that.
Not
as
all
well.
the NPCs are talkable.
Exactly. And so like, I feel like that used to be a really big selling point. It's less so now.
It's diminished. I think they've probably just burnt out.
Yeah. Because that's a lot.
I don't blame them.
And like,
don't blame them at all.
Because like in Trails in the Sky, it's like constantly changing up. And there was like some, you learn about the lives of some of these like NPCs, and it's like you're getting deep into like, you know, where did
Their
Grandpa
business.
go? and he's been gone for a while, and it's like all these interesting little bits, and you're like, okay, like that in itself was interesting, but like they haven't really. I feel like the quality has gone downhill since then in terms of NPC dialogue, and I just don't care about it as much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think there are too many filler quests too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like
that's the problem with a lot of JRPGs.
Yeah.
But
it is a problem with a lot of them. Trails like codifies it into like the core identity of the characters.
Yeah.
Like you look at like with the Bracers, I feel like they kind of established the Bracers as this weird sort of group of people that will do anything basically within the bounds of the law.
Yeah.
Right? Like they will go down and slaughter a bunch of monsters, and they will help you find your cat. If your cat's lost, right? They do all that stuff. Where it started to stretch credibility for me was the Crossbell Police. It's like, here's this special force of the police department. We need you to go and find these library books. They're overdue. You need to go and talk to these people and collect their overdue library books. It's like, I don't buy that. I don't buy
Triple
that.
S, they got like such like awful jobs,
such mundane things. And I know like they explicitly,
right?
Yeah, they had to, they wanted to be like a bracer for, you know, on the police force. They wanted them to be like the bracers of the police. So I get they justified it within the context of the story, but I'm still like, I don't know.
I feel like there doesn't always have to be like, that doesn't have to be the theme of every game where like there has to be some like group of, you have to be part of some sort of group that does quests like this. Like you can change it up, and like maybe we don't have to do quests as much. Maybe the actual side quests that we do are more like targeted towards like what is happening in the game at the time. Like it's not like
if more games in the series were like Reverie, I think I would be happy. Not necessarily like the way the story's split up, but just like Reverie doesn't have side quests like that.
No.
Right?
No,
like there's not a list of quests you have to choose from every chapter, and you have to do this and that. Like it's just a story.
Yeah.
I like the freedom though, cycling through all the different parties and going back and forth to the, you know, the other area.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Like I enjoyed it when I was playing it.
It was, it's okay. I wouldn't want every game to be like that. Like I think it's cool every now and then to do that. But just the straightforwardness of the story and like the kind of, let's take a break from the side quests. That was like a breath of fresh air for me. Cause at that point I had just finished playing every Trails game like in a row.
Well, yeah, they had the other like instead of side quests, they had the other things like you could
the dungeon crawl.
Basically, or if you have, you know, the crystals or whatever they were called, you could go and play what the story looks like,
the scenes,
or what
which is I think is good.
Mini game is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that like is more interesting than, you know, I don't know. Can you find my cat? Fetch
Can you
quest.
find my cat?
Can you like?
I lost
Another
my
thing that's
glasses.
bugged me when we were talking about bracers is what do the rankings mean? Like, why is Estelle and Joshua not as bracers at this point?
Right.
But
They
then
have,
you have some other ones
solved
that are
crises in
S-ranked.
every nation on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, it's so unequal.
S rank is supposed to be somebody who's recognized as having done significant things internationally.
Yeah.
Internationally. So like they have definitely done that by the
Above
fourth
and beyond.
game. By the fourth game, you can argue they've done that.
They've done it multiple times.
I don't. Yeah, that's a fair critique.
Stick there.
Yeah, they really. I don't know what they're doing with the bracer situation there.
Yeah.
So the next game, like after they're done, the next arc, it's going to be focused on the bracers again.
You think so? And
I
where
don't
they
know.
started?
Maybe. Or maybe they're going to like change because they no longer are going to just be the goody two shoes.
Maybe
They'll have to get into politics.
Yeah, I was wondering if they would have an Ouroboros focused arc, or maybe you're somehow involved in that. I don't know.
Well, like
there's how the Ouroboros is presently. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it'd be tricky, but it'd be interesting.
Well, like we're getting more aligned to the Ouroboros with like Daybreak and everything. I'm aligned in the way of like we work together with them a lot more.
With them more frequently, yeah.
We are like we partner with Ouroboros a lot more in Daybreak. So I think we're slowly going to start to like merge, where Ouroboros just kind of integrates into the team.
Yeah. Well, it's just like how they introduced, the law, chaos, and grayscale in the Calvert arc. We're going to see a lot more overlap, I think, in all those.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that was like a design choice, is like having Van be
intentional.
Like they really hone in on the gray aspect of like he's the one who brings everybody together. And so that's going to be a common theme of like it's going to take the good and like the not so good people coming together to actually solve whatever ends up happening in late game like trails.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because how else are going to end it? It's going to just be a forever battle if they're all separated.
I know. I'm still interested to see.
That's where the power of friendship comes in.
God,
your friend, your enemy.
Power of friendship, guys.
Friendship.
But I want to know more about the church too.
They should do a church arc.
I wish
the church is kind of boring. I
don't know. The church doesn't seem boring when you have to deal with like all the Gross letters. Like they're pretty crazy people.
Yeah, you get into some of the lore, and it's like all the church has its hands in like all of the like super like the interesting pieces of lore that I like. Like
I just don't
I'd like to know what's going on there.
Church stuff. It's been done, but
because I think
this is what they've been going for the whole series. I think it's going to end in like a corrupt church situation.
Yeah, well, whether they're corrupt or not, I'm hoping that it's not a case of like somebody is clearly evil, because I feel like I don't know. It would be so much more interesting to me if it's like either ideologies clashing or I don't know. I don't want to go into it because I don't even want to give like vague spoilers. About
this, there's a lot of people who haven't gone too far into
but
this.
Anyway, I think we should probably wrap it up because
we're good. We're good.
We've covered a lot of beloved games, and we've highlighted the parts that we think are sort of poopy, a little bit,
sort of poopy,
just a little bit.
I feel like we omitted a lot.
We left out.
To bring this back.
Yeah, this is going to have to be another part because I didn't get through my list. Right, like I have several more that I want to talk about at some point, so we'll have to bring this up again.
I've got lots of things to say about certain games.
Lots of games that I can criticize.
Lots of games.
I have fun, talking about and criticizing even the things I like. It's just an interesting thought exercise.
I think it's healthy.
Nothing's perfect out there, so like that's my thing.
Just bright-eyed.
There's so many things I love that
our favorites are the best. And
exactly. Mm-hmm. Sure, they have more positive. We have a positive outlook on them, but that doesn't mean that they're perfect. So
yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this. This roast, this honey roast, right?
Honey roast
of some of our favorites. Let us know down in the comments if you have any particular favorites that you would like to roast with us. Please share. We'd love to hear it. Again, thanks to the members, and consider joining if you're not currently a member. Get access to the after show at the Pursuer level, and we have a lot of fun there too. So it's like basically 4 extra videos a month, and that's good no matter how you spin it. So
double the content, double the fun.
Double the content, double the fun. That's the statement of the great mint and double mint gum.
I'm glad.
Goodbye, everybody.
That's on that note.
See you later.
Take care.